So we're going to turn this over to Father Eric, and he's going to open us up in prayer, and then also share just a little bit about our experience as a community during this whole COVID-19 response. Once again, everyone, for those of you that are just joining, thank you so much for being here, and we will turn it over to Father Eric. Hey, Father
In the name
Eric.
of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Heavenly Father, we come before you seeking your guidance and peace. In the scriptures this evening, we reflected on the peace that you offer us, especially that most turbulent time following the resurrection. May the peace that you offer to us during this turbulent time continue to bring us that understanding of your abiding love and presence. May we always follow you in all things, in all ways, and put you first. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Father.
I just wanted to, I think it was a good opportunity for us to sit down and have a conversation, and I say conversation, just kind of sit down and reflect on where we've been the last few weeks. A letter arrived this afternoon from the bishop's office in Atlanta stating that the present status will continue without a date. So until further notice was the official words that were used in the memo, so that we will continue to be in the same situation. My guess is at least 6 weeks. If it was just going to be 2 weeks, he would have said that. So my guess is it's probably going to be at least 6. It could be less and it could be more, but I would say at least we should be planning on being in this present situation until at least June 1st. So we're in a situation that's uncharted territory, at least for me. I would assume for the rest of us, we're trying to figure out what we do and how do we best respond to the situation that we're presently in. This is not something that I was telling my staff the other day, this is not a class that was offered in seminary formation. If I were allowed to go back and talk to the Vatican and prepare, or to the seminary formation, I think I would offer some additional class opportunities that would be more present and more apropos for the present situation that we're facing on many levels, but definitely during this pandemic. So we're trying our best to respond to how we reach out to folks. We were ahead of the game, thank God. A lot of the things that we already had in place and kind of were part of our culture didn't need to be tweaked. It just needed to be pushed out further. Parishes that friends of mine that are priests in different parishes are scrambling to figure out how to stream masses and use an iPad on a ladder and record masses, and how do they push out information to their parishioners and their kids for formation. We were already doing that, and that was part of our culture in many ways. So thank God that we didn't have to reinvent the wheel and create a whole new system in place. It was just a slight pivot, and we were in play. So I want to thank everyone for their continued support for that and guidance about how we continue to move forward. The goal for me that I think we need, and I think for us as well, is how do we continue to keep moving and keep ahead of the curve? How do we continue to offer the opportunities for the parish and improve what we offer as far as live streaming and other opportunities that are feeding many. Rob may attest or talk about tonight the numbers of people that we've reached out to and have been reaching out to us and connecting with on our various social media opportunities and online. So it's a large number, and I think we already know that a number of our people that are connecting with us aren't even parishioners. They don't even live here, or they might live here but aren't people that are connected with their parish. So we have a wonderful opportunity to continue to evangelize and do outreach in ways that perhaps were never even fathomable before. Especially during this time when people are reshuffling their priorities. So one of the things that I think would be great is if we continue, well, I'm going to pause and look at the agenda because I don't want to take up the whole time here because my staff will remind
Hey,
me.
Father Eric, sorry to interrupt you. We had a lot of people join while you were speaking. And for those of you that just joined us, I just want to say welcome to you all. At the top of your screen, you'll be able to choose speaker view, which is probably going to be very helpful so that you can see who's speaking. And this is being recorded. So whatever you missed before you got in here, we'll send out to you afterwards so that you can catch the beginning of the meeting. Father Eric, one question I had for you is, can you tell us a little bit about what it's been like for you as a priest, as a pastor, experiencing Holy Week and Easter with kind of an empty church, so to speak, not necessarily in spirit, but in physical presence?
I'll totally honest with you. It's been horrible. Holy Week's my favorite week of the year, and we put a lot of effort into experiencing and walking that journey from Palm Sunday to Easter Sunday morning. And that walk includes journeying and accompanying people, and that hasn't been a part of the experience. So I missed the sprinkling, and I miss getting everyone wet and soaked, and I missed the opportunity for us to walk that journey with washing of the feet and the veneration of the cross and the Via Crucis, and baptizing and dunking our new elect that are patiently waiting and passionately waiting for walking into the waters of baptism and becoming fully immersed in the church. But it's also been awesome to see how many people have walked that journey and never before, even if it's just online. So that's been reassuring that there's been a lot more people that perhaps next year will join us at the table during that journey of Holy Week. So.
Absolutely. I believe next on our agenda is to get an update from David Schreckenberger, our Director of Operations, who can speak to us a little bit about our response when it comes to the needs that have presented themselves through our community. So I'm going to unmute David and let him kind of give us a little bit of an update.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, David.
So our we've come across a few opportunities or situations that would naturally occur, and then some that we might not have expected due to all the new situation that we're in. And with all the people that are out of work, the natural expectation would be that more and more people don't have a way to get food, and it increase the presence of the need of our St. Vincent de Paul pantry. And if anyone has ever been down to where our St. Vincent de Paul pantry is, it's a small little section of that auxiliary building that we have in the lower parking lot. And it quickly was overwhelmed by some very generous parishioners who brought food to help them out. We seeing that need and knowing that our building wasn't in use, we immediately made plans to relocate them to our youth room for the time being, so that they could increase the scope of their operations. The Wednesday before Easter, they had a food an opportunity for people to come and get food that might need it, and they had close to 50 different folks show up to receive various amount of food, and that of course varied depending upon how big their family need was, and so that we can only anticipate that will continue to grow as these weeks continue and people are out of work longer and longer. The second thing that came up that we didn't quite expect was one of our Connect groups was made aware that the soup kitchen in downtown Atlanta had to close their operations to feed the homeless, in that they couldn't run the kitchen anymore, but the need was still there. And so they have reached out to some parent churches around the Atlanta area and we are one of them, that are making sandwiches that can then be transported to their operation, that they can hand out as needed at the Atlanta down by the basilica, or the
shrine.
Trying, thank you. They I believe they said they're handing out in the thousands of sandwiches every week. We're putting together 500 sandwiches weekly and sending that down to them with different volunteers. And those volunteers are coordinated through Deacon Tom's effort. He is helping us coordinate some of the other things. I think he'll be speaking later to some of the things he's doing. But those are the two things that we're working on right now. And as other things come up, we'll hit those as they approach us.
Thank you, David. And yeah, I spoke to one of the members today, and they said that they need about 1,000 sandwiches down at the shrine each week for lunch distribution for their clients. And that as a community at Prince of Peace, we've already assembled 1,500 sandwiches was the count so far. So thank you for the update, David. Next, we have Suzanne Coughlin, who is our team leader for our Equip department, who is going to just update us a little bit on what's been going on in the umbrella of Equip. So I'm going to unmute Suzanne and let her speak to us.
Hey there, everyone. Just a brief overview. Equip Adults, we were in the midst of 2 studies when this all happened, and we paused for weeks, but now the folks that desire to continue on are doing so via Zoom in their groups. Some have decided to continue their studies on their own at home. Equip families, we're really fortunate that a lot of what we were doing, as Father Eric had said, that our families were used to doing a lot of their children's formation in the home. So we've made some adjustments with our on-campus sessions, and actually this Sunday we'll have our first virtual Equip family session. English is at 5 and Spanish is at 7. And we're super excited about that. Everyone who's registered for Equip Families will be receiving an email with all the login information. And then we have sacraments. Our sacramental preparation continues, just pretty much via Zoom. As Father Eric had mentioned, we have we have people that were to be baptized and confirmed and receive First Communion at Easter Vigil. So they are seeing God's hand in all this and being very patient and using this time to continue to grow in their faith journey. And if anyone is interested in beginning the preparation process, it's still the same. They just go to our website to Equip Sacraments and then click on the sacrament and sign up, and someone will be in contact with them. That's it.
Hey, Suzanne, if you don't mind me putting you on a spot, I know that we are patiently waiting and we're excited. You know, Easter Vigil, particularly the Triduum at Prince of Peace, is just such an awesome celebration. Can you share a little bit about the experience of those folks and their hopeful anticipation, maybe? Yeah,
so they were in the period just prior to that call to embracing, and they were actually doing the scrutinies, reflecting deeply upon 3 of the gospel stories leading up to Easter, and things stopped like right after their first one. And so we continued to meet on Zoom, and the first one was kind of uncomfortable, you know, everyone getting used to Zoom, but by the second one, their hearts were just, they were so open and so, you could just really see God has been working in their lives, and just the fact that they are seeing this as an opportunity to continue to grow in faith, I think really speaks a lot to where they are in their journey, and they're just an awesome group of people. I can't wait. And then also, just, I don't want to forget, we actually have about 12 people that were baptized in other faith traditions, and they are going to be received in the church as soon as possible as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for updating us, Suzanne. Next up, and if you guys, any questions that you might have, I know we have a question about if St. Vincent de Paul prefers actual food or cash, food donations or cash, and I will ask David Schreckenberger to find that answer out, and then we will have that answer for you hopefully by the end of the meeting. But next up, as far as updates go, I would like to turn this over to our Director of Youth Ministry, Jesse Corsi, who's going to share with us.
Wonderful. So thank you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Youth Ministry continues to move on. I'll jump off of what Suzanne was saying. We also are continuing confirmation meetings via Zoom, and then We have Connect High School and Middle School both meeting. The middle schoolers meet on Wednesday at 7s, and the high schoolers meet on Sundays at 4. And then we have an Instagram page that a lot of the kids are following, where we go live pretty much every day, has something different. Anywhere from a girls chat or a guys chat to today we did Sunday scriptures, and just kind of diving into Lectio Divina. Instagram works a lot like Facebook in the sense of it gives you an opportunity for you to go back and view the live. So we have that up there just for your awareness, because you guys will reach a larger crowd. We also have a permission to contact form. And so as we're contacting everyone, basically we've asked that the parents give us permission to contact them. And then for Zoom, when we meet with Zoom, we're recording all of the sessions and archiving them in the cloud. And they're all password based, because I'm sure everybody's aware of the different Zoom calls and everything. So we've taken extra measures to make sure that we are above reproach when it comes to the safety of our teens.
Awesome. And Jesse, you've been doing a lot of one-on-one meetings. We've had kids that have been in like the process for preparing for confirmation and things like that. You have a good finger on the pulse of the needs of our kids today. Can you share a little bit about your experience of uncovering some of that?
Yeah, I think like what really struck me today as I had a few meetings is this idea of domestic church. And I know for me in my own personal life, I'm seeing this lived out within my home with my 2 roommates. But the kids actually naming it, they're not saying domestic church, but they're naming this time with family as actually good. A time we talk a lot about their prayer lives, and that's something that I asked a kid in particular today, were you guys doing this before? And he said, well, kind of. He said, but every day we're doing this now. And so I think that that's such a great thing. I think one of the struggles that maybe people wouldn't quite guess that teenagers would have in this time of connection via social media is there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of despair happening as teenagers recognize the connection that they have when they're actually in the presence of another. And so they are having that recognition, and they're having that desire to connect with other people. And so that's kind of where I've been asking for prayers for our teenagers in particular, is that we can continue to speak into this time of reaching them, but then also connecting them to people. My hope as a youth minister coming out of this, my hope is that the desire for them to get their heads out of their phones is huge. Thanks, Rob.
Awesome. Thanks, Jesse, for sharing with us. Just a few updates from the communication side of our mission. About 3 weeks ago, we had, typically on a normal non-COVID-19 weekend, we will see about 2,500 to 3,000 people tuning in, give or take, and depending on what's going on. Since COVID-19, we have now seen a substantial increase in that. And so about 3 weeks ago, we saw 17,000 people tune in for the whole entire week to anything that we offered, whether it was a daily mass or Stations of the Cross or anything like that as we journeyed through Lent. And the following week after that, which would have been the week before Holy Week, we saw a jump to 19,000 views. And then actually during Holy Week, we saw about 28,000 views tune in. And, my house, we have a family of 5. And so if you multiply that by a couple people in the household, we're looking at, and I say this just to kind of give you a visual of the amount of people, we're looking at basically Mercedes-Benz Stadium as the audience that we're reaching. And so there is a beautiful opportunity for evangelization or digital evangelization and outreach for what we're doing as a community. And I know that we're looking at even breaking that open more and improving on what we're offering and making that more of what we do in our new normal when a lot of these restrictions are relaxed and some of our everyday life begins to take shape again. So that's just a little bit on the communication front. As always, we'll be sending out our email blast on Tuesdays every week. We're trying to get away from sending the knee-jerk reaction emails about everything that's going on because we are back to a little bit of a baseline. Our parish website, you can live stream off of that, YouTube and Facebook if you haven't joined us there yet. And if you ever have any questions or anything like that that I can help you with, or suggestions or feedback, please send it to us. We're happy to look at that. Just two quick things. We asked for people to send in their photos so that we could line our pews up with people's pictures. And we've had over 500 photo submissions to do that. We're still getting photos and we still need to hang those photos. And we did an Easter video where everyone was able to say Happy Easter to everyone. And we had over 90 people send in a video. So the response has been good and it's been uplifting. And we're really trying to focus on things that build engagement, not necessarily just push information out at people. You know, as a community, the one thing that we're lacking is coming together. And through some of this technology, we can come together in unique ways. So next week on our team trivia game, we have a special guest who I will not say who it is. You'll have to tune in to play, but we're very excited to have that person back with us for that special event. And Deacon Tom will join us next Wednesday night for fireside chats. One thing I'd like to do now is we were going to get an update from Deacon Tom regarding our parish response. I have not seen him join our call just yet, so I can speak to tell you this. On our website, popfb.org/health and safety, and I will email this to you guys after the call. People can submit their needs, and they can also submit their desire to help. And so if you guys had visited that website, if you're interested in helping out, you can submit that information to our parish response team, and that information can get updated and sent in to Deacon Tom, who's our liaison to that team. Other things that you should be aware of is we did get an answer back regarding St. Vincent de Paul from David Schreckenberger, and I understand that Ron is on the call, so hello to Ron. St. Vincent de Paul is happy to receive either food or cash, but cash is preferred because it can be used to buy bulk food as well as provide other support such as rent or utility payments. Any questions for St. Vincent de Paul, you can email them directly. At this time, I would like to turn the conversation over to, let me get to my agenda here. Michael Mullink, who's going to update us on liturgy information and kind of some of the things that you've been experiencing. So let me just grab him. Let me unmute him and let him share with us some things that are happening from a liturgical perspective of our parish. Okay, Michael, go ahead and hit unmute and join us.
Can everybody hear me?
Hey, Michael.
Hey, Rob, thanks. Hello, everybody. It's good to see some of the faces I can see tonight and to know that you all are out there. Really have felt the prayers of this community behind us as we've been going through this time. I wanted to answer a couple questions, give you a little bit of state of the union in the worship department land. There's one of the main questions that keeps coming from many of you is how can I come and serve? I would love to lecture. I'd love to be an extraordinary minister for Holy Communion during this time. And so that the answer that I have to give everyone is we just have to hold on because of this shelter in place order. Father Eric has asked that just the clergy and the parish staff and our parish religious sister Susan be the main ones to serve in those liturgical capacities. I've brought in a musician here and there in order to help me, so you can have some relief from the sound of my voice or my playing. But until we are able to open our doors again, we're going to continue to use that skeletal staff of parish staff and clergy for those roles. I appreciate your understanding. One of the things that's coming up, though, that you need to know about, especially our liturgical ministers, is we've been beta testing some software to do an automatic check-in as people arrive so that we can have sacristans checking in our liturgical ministers rather than have the paper check-in that we've been using. So you'll be hearing more about that soon. Anna Correa, my colleague in the worship department, is going to be joining me and making some phone calls to many of you, our liturgical ministry leaders, check in with you. And I would ask you if you could find a way to reach out to the members of your ministry. It's going to be easier for some of you who have fewer members, but even just a way to create a call like this or have an opportunity to reach out, find out how people are doing. I know that we did that with our AV department at Easter time, and it's just good for one another to know that we as leaders are responsive to their needs, and that we miss them, and that we're really trying to get people excited. It's just profoundly humbling to know that many people are joining our community in prayer for these daily masses, for the weekend masses, and for the Holy Week Triduum. And I would just encourage you to be finding ways to reach out to the other members of our ministry so that when it's time for us to come back, we can come back in force. One of the ways we're going to try to use this time is to develop some AV training modules so that we can beef up our AV volunteers by making online trainings available. So many people have been trained in one facet of the AV ministry or another, and what we'd like to do is do some cross-training during this time. So you're going to be hearing some of that come out. Going to be looking for additional ministers to help, not just in the sanctuary, in the church AV, but we're just feeling like there's going to be an explosive need for a lot more technological support as we move into more and more opportunities across the campus, in the youth room, in the atrium, all over campus, to have AV ministers helping us out. One thing that we've noticed is that so many people are coming from the other side of things and watching in a way that we never saw before, in numbers like we've never known before. And many people didn't even perhaps realize that we even did all this, that we live streamed all this. And I think there could be people that want to be on the other side of the camera, as it were, when we are able to come back. And so we just really want to find those volunteers, use this time to train them, and be ready for the people that are going to be coming on campus when we're able to do that again. I think that's all I have. I just really appreciate everybody's feedback and your support and your prayers, and I'm praying for all of you.
Hey, Michael, just a question real fast. You've been a part of parish ministry, particularly at Prince of Peace for a while, in different roles and in other parishes and things like that. As a person that is intimately involved with how we worship, what's the experience been like for you as our director of worship, and kind of putting the things together and thinking about that this is all going to be seen at home, being very out of the ordinary? What's the experience been like for you personally?
Well, it's lonely. I have to say it's very lonely to represent so many people. It's humbling, but like Father Eric said when he said it's been difficult, it's sad, because I really rely on the energy of the people that I'm praying with. I know that I sing differently, I lead differently, I play differently when I can feel the energy of the people I'm praying with. And without that, it's just personal prayer, and it's just not the same. So I can't wait till y'all can come back.
Yeah, I look forward to that celebration that weekend back. I'll probably go to every single mass. All right, wonderful. Michael, thank you so much for giving those updates to us from the liturgy. Just a brief word of information for St. Vincent de Paul again. On our online giving platform, you can specifically donate to our St. Vincent de Paul Society outside of Prince of Peace. So if you go to popfb.org/give, you can specifically give to St. Vincent de Paul there. So one of the things that we want to do is talk a little bit about what things might look like going forward, and I'm going to send that back to Father Eric to talk to us a little bit about that. So I'm going to unmute you, Father Eric, and give you the floor.
Very exciting. Thanks.
You're so welcome.
So as I said earlier, my guess is that we'll probably be running this through at least till June 1st, at least for the next 6 weeks. So we're going to continue to, as someone said earlier, I think it was Michael or Rob, that we'll look at upgrading. Perhaps we're going to be doing a lot of updating. The campus is, the facilities people are continuing to do a lot of painting and repairs and other things that can happen because we don't have activities going on. So those folks are still working in the campus. We're also looking at upgrading and updating our existing equipment and systems for online efforts, because I think I have a prediction that most likely there's going to be a number of people, I don't know what that number is going to be, that are never going to come back to church for fear of being in large crowds and gatherings. But also there's going to be a number of people that are going to continue to interact with us virtually online that may never enter our doors, but we're still feeding them. And I think we need to take advantage of those opportunities. And how do we do that better? We're perhaps we're at a point in our technology situation or timeline that we just need to reinvest in what we're doing and continue to move forward. Like anything else, technology continues to move very quickly beyond our abilities to always keep up. So we need to take the time now while we can to kind of sit down and work on things that we can work on and get those things running up and running, and so that when we do come back, we're rocking on all 8 cylinders, so to speak. We're going to continue looking at how do we move forward, because eventually we are going to come back together, and how do we sit down and plan and look at scheduling and all those opportunities, along with efforts that the develop team is working on with the ME25 and our efforts to look at some priorities that we're addressing, so that we can all work together, so that the lay leadership, you and many others that can sit down and continue to do your homework, work on those things that will help guide us in the coming year. But also the PLT, my leadership team is going to continue working on how do we make plans for things that are going to happen, whether we're in-house or not. Those liturgical efforts and those formational efforts continue to have to be pushed out and made happening, or made to be lived out in our community as best as possible. We're in the Easter season, when the busiest time of the year as far as liturgy is concerned. So we have 50 days of Easter that are coming up. We will move into Pentecost, I'm hoping that at Pentecost we can celebrate with great fervor a true Pentecost experience. I don't know that that's going to happen. I just don't know. I don't know. I wish I had the magic ball and the nice hat and the Johnny. Those are people who are Johnny Carson remembrances, Karnak. I wish I'd be able to remember all those things that and predict all those efforts that we're looking forward to. But I'm as lost as everyone else is, I think, and I'm hoping that we can celebrate those efforts. But I think we need to continue in the interim to continue to make plans for things. I don't want to, and I talked with somebody on staff today, I don't want to overplan, but I don't want to underplan. I don't want to overplan to the point where we're constantly moving dates, but I also don't want to sit back and underplan and then constantly being reactive to a situation and then trying to catch up to things that we need to be that need to happen. So I've asked my staff next week we're meeting to sit down and talk about how do we look at things, ideas. I think we need to be even more creative in how we look at things that we offer, the things that we're doing. I mean, Rob came to me and said, hey, why don't you read some kids' books and we'll record that and offer that opportunity. And I'm like, well, okay. And I did it. Rob even stole some toys from his children and brought them in to have as props. And Father Jorge and I read these books, and I never thought it would be a big deal, but now I have pictures of people who have their kids sitting there glued to the television watching Father Jorge and I read books to them on YouTube. So continue to work on creative ways that people can engage in this time of quarantine and stay at home and all these other things that we're in the process of dealing with, and how do we continue to reach out to the community. So I'm hoping that we can continue to up our game, so to speak, so that we continue to make that even better and better opportunities for people to encounter Christ more deeply in their lives. So I'm hoping that we can work simultaneously and not in opposition, obviously, but in simultaneous, that we can work together so that things can continue to move forward. I want to have things in place that when we do return, we're not trying to react to catching up, but that we're actually in the ballpark working, that things can transition as smoothly as possible. So I don't know if that answers your question, Rob, or not, but.
Father Eric, one of the things that we are going to be sending out is kind of like a questionnaire to all of our leadership, just about their experiences during COVID-19 restrictions and things like that, from the parish perspective, from our faith perspective. And the desire there is that there's a lot that's happening in the parish right now, that there's a lot of good, right? We don't want to ever supersede the fact that being together as a physical community is second to none, but there are some things that are happening that this experience has allowed us to kind of test out and experience and experiment with. And so some of that stuff might stick around, and through this questionnaire that we're going to be sending out to everybody, we'll get some of that feedback and information. Is that right?
Yes.
That's a wonderful answer, Father Eric.
Yeah, I mean, I think as we need to continue to work, obviously, the difficulty that we face now is trying to work together. So my staff is meeting daily, or excuse me, my PLT is meeting daily, my leadership team is meeting daily, Monday through Friday, and then we're also meeting with the whole staff once a week. We're going to be implementing a daily prayer opportunity at noon for us as a staff to be in prayer together every day. I think we might continue to look at efforts that will reach out to the whole community and see who wants to sign up and be on Facebook Live and offer prayer opportunities. There's all kinds of things that we can do in this interim, but I also think that we have to continue to look forward to how we move into a reunion of community together and how do we bring that back? Because there's going to be not everyone's going to show back up the first day that we're open. It's just not going to happen. So there's going to be people that perhaps that have been distant, that are not going to come back. There's also people who are saying, I'm not coming back because it's a crowd. So how do we work together to make sure that we're trying our best to reach out to everyone in need, because we can't simply return to what we did before. And a few years ago, we stopped everything, we paused, we looked at everything, we evaluated, we marched down a path of alpha, and we just walked into a journey that we didn't know was going to be. And I think that's the same opportunity we have now, where we can say, hey, we have this opportunity. I think families should be doing the same thing. I think couples should be doing the same thing. I think individuals should be doing the same thing about, hey, we have this opportunity. Let's sit down and look at our priorities. Let's sit down and look at what we're doing. I think we as an organization need to do the same thing. And I think we're at that point where we can do that together as staff and as lay leadership to best evaluate what we're doing and how do we move forward in this time, but also move forward in long-term understanding of how our community continues to reach out to those in our community, and how we reach out to each other, and how we reach out to those that are lost and looking for something.
Yeah, you told a story at one of our meetings this week about somebody that lives across the street from the parish, and they're not a member of our community or anything like that, but they've been tuning into things that we're offering. And that's the opportunity here with this, I think, when we get back to, or when we move into the new normal, is that it creates a really easy threshold for people to cross over to see what's going on in our church environment, and then possibly come in and experience our church.
Well, they're not even Catholic. I mean, not even Christian, not even have any connection with our parish, but they're not even Catholic. So yeah, I mean, we're reaching out to people that we would never have probably been able to get into our doors, that we can safely engage with and push out information to. We need to continue to up our game on that.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I want to turn it over. Before this COVID-19 restrictions on our community life and stuff came forward, and shelter in place, we were working on a parish engagement strategy with 3 particular goals. And we were going to have a secondary meeting with all of our leadership, and that meeting got canceled. And we have Annette Bechtold from our develop team here that's just going to briefly talk about what we as leadership teams were supposed to do during that time. And so I'm going to welcome Annette Bechtold to our conversation.
Thanks, Rob.
Annette, you are muted again. I'm sorry. Hold on one second. There you go. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Okay, take 2. Thanks, everybody. It's really great to see all your faces. I've had the opportunity to meet with the develop team often, but it is hard not seeing everybody. Back in last year, we started this path to in talking about engagement. We did the survey. We talked about what we thought would be engaging. How do we engage more people, and what does that look like? And a lot of you participated with us, and we created this path, and a group of engagement designers created these great three goals that we have to move forward. Centering, the first one is spiritually centered in the Eucharist. The next one is growing my relationship with Christ. And then the third one is the contribution of my gifts. And those are areas to concentrate. The wonderful thing about those particular goals is they are universally applicable. So engagement, as Father's just said, engagement really looks totally different now than it did back last fall. So the things that we're experiencing today, what does engagement mean now? Completely different thoughts for many people. And what's it going to look like in 6 weeks from now? What's it going to look like a year from now? And this is a great opportunity for our leaders to start to help us shape where we focus on building engagement. What does that look like? This is a different environment. And I think we have to look at it that way. I think engagement always is evolving, and it's always changing because our culture changes, the people change, the individuals change. This is just a very significant and more radical change than we probably experience. So we usually kind of go along at a fairly steady pace of kind of doing the same thing and gradually change. Well, we have this amazing opportunity to take what's been before us and challenge what we think engagement will look like. How do we continue to embrace people that are new, who have not been with us before? How do we continue to keep the people that we have close to us and building the relationship with Christ? So in our next phase, we want to engage all of you and have you help us to think through some of the things that we can do. So part of the things we want to do is not miss out on the things we've accomplished so far. What are the things that you in your particular ministry or in the way team that you're in, what are the things you do today that actually embrace and engage people to a deeper relationship with Christ? What are some of the things you could be doing? So we're going to be putting together a questionnaire and ask that you get together and have some conversations with your teams to brainstorm, what are you doing today? Or what were you doing right before this? What are you doing today? And what could you be doing as we start to contemplate what things may look like in the future? And that'll help us as we start to put together and kind of focus where we pick up and move from here on engagement level.
So Annette, just a question for you. There's some some tools that you have given us for our leadership teams to help people kind of go through what their leadership team typically does and match that up against our engagement goals. We'll be sending that out. And the idea is that the teams could still have those conversations, whether it's a Zoom call like this or FaceTime or on the phone, right? And we still want people to do that and get that back to us. And if they have questions or anything like that, they can reach directly out to you guys. Is that correct?
Right. Yep, absolutely. Yes. Yeah, we'll be happy to help. Or if you need help kind of figuring out how to bring that meeting together, we can help you organize that too. Or if you just want to know how to kind of get started with with working with your team. But really, it's just a time to be together and kind of think through what could be. And I think that's an important thing, and it's a very productive thing to do at this time, to figure out how do we start to look at all the individuals that are here today, that were here, that might not be willing to come back, like Father said, but yet need us as well. And so I think it just gives us an opportunity to be together. So if we can help you in any way, whether you need help setting up meetings or structure, we'll try to put together a structure for your meeting and some forms that you can all fill out and work as a brainstorming sheet. And so hopefully those tools will help as well. So look for that in the next week or two from us.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other documents that we were supposed to hand out at that meeting that was canceled, we will get out to all the teams. And we really do want that feedback from everybody, because that's going to be helpful as we all together move forward. And also keeping in mind all the things that Father Eric just shared. So we're all on this kind of same pathway together. So thank you, Annette, for what you and your team do and keeping us chugging forward and getting better at what we do and allowing the Holy Spirit to work through that. We are going to go to open up the floor for some questions, but I do see that Deacon Tom has joined our call. It is also his birthday today, so I want to just thank him for joining us on his birthday. But Deacon Tom, I'm going to unmute you, and then you'll click unmute on your side. Could you just give us an update from the parish response team regarding the phone calls and the outreach and things like that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. we had about 4 weeks ago, we wanted to reach out to folks who basically were not contacting us about their needs. So we had really very few requests on our line that requests for special support of any kind during this time. And it was decided that we would reach out to those parishioners who are 69 years of age and older and make phone calls, call them, try to touch with them, interact with them personally, and find out how they're doing, make sure they know that Prince of Peace is there for them, make sure they know that we're praying for them, and see if they do have any special needs, whether that's help getting groceries or if they have financial concerns, financial issues, whatever that might be. Maybe it's prayers. We communicated prayers to the prayer chain. I think it was 70 prayers that we communicated from those phone calls to the prayer chain. We've since expanded that to those who are 60 through 68, so we're basically 60 and older. We're making those phone calls. The first weekend, we made over 900 calls, and we're continuing that process. The 69 plus group was over 1,000. The 60 to 68 group is about 900. So we're continuing to reach out to people to make sure they know we're there for them, and to offer any assistance that we can to make sure that they're getting their needs met.
That's fantastic. Deacon Tom, if people are interested in helping out, they can certainly email you directly at deacontom@popfb.org. And then if anybody has any needs, if there's anybody that has needs or knows of somebody, how are we helping? How are we responding to those things? Can you speak in a little bit about that and that volunteer pool?
We've done a few things, like there was an older couple who really have mobility issues, and normally their daughter gets groceries for them, and their daughter wasn't available for about a week and a half. And so we had volunteers that took their shopping list and went to Publix and got their groceries. We've had people who were having difficulty with paying bills, and we referred them to St. Vincent de Paul. We've had as I said, lots of prayer requests, literally over 100 prayer requests that we've transferred to the prayer chain. So those are the kinds of things that we're responding to. People are in need of groceries. We're connecting them with St. Vincent de Paul as well.
Awesome. Thank you for liaison and to that group of people. We had a huge response as people that are desiring to help out and stuff like that. So any kind of like responding to needs that are related to the COVID-19 experience for those that might be feeling the pinch that is this shelter in place, job related or anything like that, please feel free to reach out to Deacon Tom. Again, his email is deacontom@popfb.org. Deacon Tom, thank you so much, and happy birthday. Happy 21st birthday. Yeah, absolutely. At this time, we do want to open up the floor for some questions that some of the things that our staff has spoken on, or some of the things that you need clarity on, or that you're just curious about. We might not be able to get to everyone's questions tonight, and then we will close in prayer at the end of that. So once again, thank you everyone for joining us. If you have any questions, on the bottom of your screen, there's a raise your hand icon. If you'll click on that, we'll be able to bring you in for that question. So go ahead. And if you prefer to just type your question in, you're welcome to do that as well in the chat. One of the questions we had earlier, just as a point of clarification, was someone asked if they could drop off their envelopes for their giving and their tithing to the parish. And if you were to show up during the day, we do have some necessary staff. It's not necessarily a guarantee. And so mailing that would be the best way to do that, or utilize our online giving. Looks like we have a question here somewhere. Hold on one second. Hey, Zechariah, I saw that you had your hand up.
Oh, I'm unmuted. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I would just love Father Eric to speak to, I think the question was actually typed out from maybe Doris, in terms of, we've been talking a lot about programming and streaming and, serving our parish digitally and remotely, and that's awesome. And I just wonder, like, with the uncertainty with, being able to get back together, and as our parish sort of remains in the desert, sacramentally speaking, is there the possibility for creatively finding ways to distribute the source and summit of our faith? We have places like Home Depot and Walmart finding ways to safely consider themselves essential for mulch or groceries, and yet we find ourselves deemed unessential. And so I find that really disheartening as I continue to try to practice my faith and lead my family in that way, kind of going, okay, well, how do I continue to say that this is essential and the center of our faith when the conversation hasn't centered around how we find creative ways of making that available? And I realize that the difficulty comes from higher up the chain, but I'm wondering if that's something we could talk about, or are we?
Father Eric, you are unmuted, so feel free to respond.
So I would love to distribute communion. I would love to have the opportunity to provide that opportunity for people to come and receive communion. But I also live in a church that has a hierarchy of understanding, and I'm following my leaders' directions at this point that just, like I said, just came out today, and the directions were that sacraments will continue to be, public masses, sacraments, and gatherings will continue to be suspended this time as we shelter in place, at least through the end of the month. But it's also said that until further notice, according to the Bishop, Joel Konzen. I'm open to having adoration online if we can do that. Obviously, I can't just leave perpetual adoration of the Lord, just, in my opinion, leave him just in a room unattended with a camera on him. I think that would be not a good idea, but perhaps we can have some adoration time. One of the things that I know it's difficult to not receive the Blessed Sacrament in the Eucharist, but I also know that countless people around the world don't have the opportunity that we have gotten, in a sense, spoiled by here in our society. We have daily mass. We have 9 masses during the week. We have 6 masses on the weekends. There are people in the world that haven't had a mass in a month or longer, and they wait for the traveling priest to show up. We also have servicemen and women that are deployed around the world that don't see a Catholic priest for months at a time. And I think we need to truly understand how we can be in solidarity and understand that we can, and I don't want to say offer it up that as a trivial understanding, but offer that opportunity to the Lord and truly perhaps engage the Lord in many different ways other than receiving the Blessed Sacrament during Mass. And that may sound like, I know as a priest, it may sound like, oh, well, he's able to receive and we're not. And I just wish we had an opportunity to do that. At this point, it's just not in the opportunities or in the situation that we presently face. I don't know if that answers your question, Zechariah. I'm not trying to dismiss your desire, as many other people have expressed this very same desire and want. So.
Father Eric, a question that has come up in the chat is anointing of the sick. And I know in that document that was just sent out, they spoke to that too as well. Can you just share a little bit about what that's going to look like going forward here?
So anytime that someone contacts the parish and says someone's sick and suffering and dying or a situation, we will go out and anoint them. That has not stopped. The situation with the difficulty that we face in going to the hospital with someone who is perhaps COVID-19 positive and is dying is the fact that most likely the hospital will not let us in because of the sheer amount of material that has to go on someone walking into the room. We can't offer the sacrament through a door. The sacrament actually has to be administered person to person. Obviously, absolution of sins can happen through a door or opportunities like that, but as far as administering the sacrament of the sick specifically, that has to be done tangibly and tactily. Yeah, I mean, the sacrament of the sick continuing to be offered. Father Jorge and I both have visited people in their homes or in the hospital and ministered the sacrament of the sick to those that are in need.
Thanks for answering that. Robin Johnson has a question, and we're going to unmute her and allow her to ask that. Hey, Robin, go ahead and unmute on your side.
Hey, good to see all of y'all. Actually, I just wanted to say, it's not really a question, but a lot of people in our community, even people who aren't regular mass goers, I have really, really seen on social media how much they enjoyed with their families doing the videos at Easter and sending their pictures in, watching live mass. I mean, it's been surprising almost, because like you said, I think we're reaching people that, you know, maybe it's just because of the times we're in, but it is a great opportunity. It's been very encouraging, and everybody has just talked about how wonderful the staff and the priest and the deacons, you know, they're just so thankful. So I just wanted to be able to say that in case there's some that don't see that or hear that as much. But I've been, you know, really just seeing that from a lot of people that, you know, sometimes don't put it on the Prince of Peace website, so people wouldn't know maybe. Plus I was actually, I know I said something, and Michael Mullink, because I said it to him privately, but I was thinking, because of all the kids that are out of school till August, especially the older teenagers, maybe going to college and stuff, you know, they're so good with technology. I just thought they might be a good group to kind of like, they might even like coming in and helping us, you know, because they're good at it. They like technology, and they're not going back to school till August. So if, you know, we might have to have permission forms or something, you know, all that kind of stuff to do. But it seems like a great group to maybe that if you need, like you said, you might be needing more technical help, you know, in the next coming months. So it made me think of all those kids at home that are waiting for August to come. So
Thank you for sharing, Robin. One of the questions that came up, Father Eric, you are unmuted, so you can answer this, was, do you think things will loosen up after we have our Archbishop installed? And we got some information about that today too, so why don't you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the document that actually came out today from the bishop is actually, so our new Archbishop is the the present ordinary or Bishop of Savannah. So actually the both dioceses, both Savannah and Atlanta, are in conjunction at this point, and the document was agreed upon by all three bishops of the state of Georgia. So yeah, it's I don't think the Archbishop coming in May 6th is magically going to make a difference, because he's also been in conversations with our two bishops here in Atlanta, and they've agreed to make decisions as a unit, so to speak, in the state of Georgia.
Thanks for that. Just wanted to clarify that St. Vincent de Paul is collecting food donations on Wednesdays and Fridays from noon to 3 in the youth room. And at those same times, Wednesdays and Fridays from noon to 3, they'll also be distributing food out as well. That's in your email blast each week right now. That came from Deacon Tom. So Ingrid Boston had a question. And so Ingrid, I'm going to click unmute on my side. And if you'll click unmute on your side, you'll be good to go.
Okay, hi everybody. Good to see everybody. Can you hear me?
Yep.
You know, I just wanted to say thank you to the staff and the clergy. I've just been really appreciative, as Robin said, of all of the effort, you know, that's been put in for the masses, and I know it's not something we normally do. You guys have done a great job. I mean, Michael, everything has been great with singing, and I always enjoy it. I've even connected Kim in a little bit, and she heard you a little bit one day. So thank you to all of you, and I'm really appreciative. And I emailed Sister Susan, and I told her that she just did a remarkable job lecturing, so she's just gonna stay on. So thank you all very much.
Thank you for sharing, Ingrid. We appreciate that. And there's a lot of staff that are behind the scenes helping out, whether they're on campus making it happen or at a distance. there's, in addition to all of you guys that continue to help us and make this, this mission hasn't changed. It's just how we do it right now has changed a little bit. So thank you guys for your support and prayers and love and messages, and as we strive to just serve each other through this really unique time. If there's any other questions, feel free to place them in the chat box or raise your hand. One of the questions that came through was, can we have the camera be stationed on the tabernacle when mass is not on? And that's something we can certainly look at. Internet usage went up 95% as all this happened. And so we did experience some streaming issues on and off with the internet and things like that with our service. So we can certainly look at that as we go forward. Don't see any other questions here. If anybody has any other questions, feel free to raise your hand or put them in the chat box. Father Eric, before we do close tonight, oh, here we go. Zechariah Pierce, 1 second.
Hi.
All right, you should be able to unmute. There you go.
Yes, awesome. Thank you, Father Eric, for that response from before. And I wonder if in continuing, is there a way to petition farther up in terms of voicing concerns, or at what point does, if this is such an open-ended time, is there a point at which it becomes sort of an abuse from higher up that we should be concerned about, or are there ways for us to write people farther up the chain to be able to maybe have a more unified voice as a church in that way, and voicing those concerns?
Because I hear you. I don't think that this is a desire of the bishops of the country to say we're gonna abuse the people by not giving them communion. I think it's a deep desire to keep people healthy and safe, and that includes the clergy. That includes everybody that's involved with providing a mass to thousands of people. That happens every single week. Normally, there's a lot of people that are involved in making things happen, and I think that's just trying to keep everyone safe and healthy, that we don't put people in danger or in situations that would provide spread of illness beyond what is absolutely necessary. I mean, as a priest, I'm going to go out and distribute the sacraments as best as possible, but providing communion to thousands and thousands of people that are presently parishioners at Prince of Peace and across the Archdiocese, which is 1 million+ people, could possibly endanger people. I think that's why the bishops have made those decisions across the country, not just here in Atlanta, but have made those decisions to provide safety and health. Yeah, I don't think it's. I'm not saying that's what you're saying, but I don't want it to sound like it's an abuse situation, but it's a health and safety factor that we need to follow versus restricting people from the sacraments.
I just want to thank everyone for joining us this evening, and we're going to close. Father Eric will close with
No, I think one of the deacons can pray.
Oh, one of the deacons. Okay.
Deacon Bob's online. He's actually on video.
Deacon Bob is online. That's a new thing for everyone.
Deacon Bob had a camera in his house, so we're impressed that Deacon Bob's online with us video-wise.
Just wanted to remind everyone, we will email out this recording and the things that we spoke about, particularly for the leadership teams to work on from the engagement stuff. We want to keep all that going forward. And especially this survey, we really desire to understand the needs and the experiences that you are having as we journey in this such unprecedented time. I myself look forward to not having to live stream mass and being physically present. So I
just want to say thank you to everyone. I've received countless emails and notes of support for the parish and the staff and the clergy. I just want to say thank you for everyone's ongoing support. It's just been amazing. We've received notes from people that aren't even near us or connected with us. Someone sent us a check for $200 to help support our online ministry. They're not even near our parish. So I just want to say thank you to everyone, and thank you to y'all for your loving and prayerful support. So thank you. I appreciate that. I think there can be a desire to be frustrated and negative and all those things. And I haven't sensed that at all from the community. I know it's difficult and this time, but I also know that there's been just tremendous prayerful, loving support during this time. So I greatly appreciate that.
Father Eric, Deacon Bill is going to close us in prayer and blessing. Deacon Bill, if you click unmute, you should be good to go.
Hit unmute.
It's done.
All right. In the name of the Father and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Father, we thank you for being with us. We know you are in our lives. We thank you for making your presence known. We thank you for your goodness and your gifts as evidenced by our parish and all those on this call that yearn to be with you, yearn to be with each other, yearn to help. We thank you for this time. We know of your great love. We know of your presence and your abiding love. We thank you for your mercy and for your grace. Give us open our eyes and our hearts to see you in different ways, to experiencing you in new and different ways. You are God of the universe. And we're just learning to understand you in ways that we may not have experienced before. We ask your blessing on all of us, on our families, our Prince of Peace, our diocese, our bishops. We ask you to cure this land of this virus so we can go back to being your hands and feet in the world, spreading the Easter joy that we've just experienced together in word and sacrament and deed. We love you. We ask for your forgiveness. We thank you for being an integral part in everything we do at Prince of Peace. And Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
And Almighty God bless all of us, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.